Hello everyone! Pro tip, never wash your hair half an hour before you're meant to go live. I hope it doesn't look too terrible, but it's nearly dry. Like, this will just have to do. I'll just have to have a slightly damp hair look for today. Yeah, I've just started the Twitch stream. I forgot to press go on that before I ran off to go and dry my hair. So how is everyone doing? Thank you. I'm glad you're willing to lie to tell me my hair looks nice. Yeah, we're live on YouTube. And live on Twitch at the same time, hopefully. Yeah, how's everyone in chat doing? It's been a week. I think it's been kind of, as far as weeks go, in terms of politics for trans people, it's been quite a good week, I guess. We've got like a few inspiring things. We've got one really positive thing. We've got a bunch of like, unfortunately, and I know that I'm going to get accused by the gender criticals of being obsessed with J.K. Rowling when there's probably no one I want to talk about less on this entire earth. This is going to be quite a J.K. Rowling heavy episode because there's like 2 separate dunks on her and a piece of news from her. Then we've got some EHRC stuff. We can talk about something I recently did, and then we get to laugh at. And this is quite a strong claim. But I think maybe the biggest clown in the gender critical movement, and I'm not going to give away who it is. You might already know who I'm talking about, but we haven't talked about them much recently. We did an episode on them, like season 1 of this show or something. They haven't really come up much since, and we're just doing a retrospective because they've just come out with one of the most hilarious articles I've ever read, and I just thought I'd just go back and cover their greatest hits because they are amazing. But yeah, so it's gonna hopefully be an uplifting, positive-ish like stream today. And that's in contrast to the general mood of this year, which has been horrific. I know that a lot of people are worrying about their rights and healthcare in lots of the English-speaking world and beyond. So it's pretty grim. 2 separate dunks. Yeah, 2 separate dunks. It's not Graham Linehan. We've talked about Graham Linehan recently on this show. We haven't talked about this. I promise you, up there with Graham Linehan is like the ratio of horrible to clown. For Graham Linehan, both of those are quite high, but he's more horrible. Like, horrible is his main personality trait. Same with J.K. Rowling. The one we're going to talk about, they're horrible. They're quite horrible. But their clown rating, you know, if you had like gender critical top trumps, the clown rating on this would be over 9,000. It's high. It's not just like idiocy. It's like the style in which it's done is just clown is the word. Because there's some stupid gender critical people. and this person's stupid, but like clownish. That's just the best way to describe it. So we can. Oh, Poppy's a bit grumpy today, so if she comes in and walks all over the keyboard, and she's about to drink my drink. Thanks, Poppy. I poured her own drink. This one's for you. Come on. This one. As I've mentioned before, she likes to drink out of my water, so I do a fake water just for her. And now she wants to drink out. But come on. Get your snout in there. Come on. She doesn't even want to drink now, because I've told her which one. Turf Clown tier list. We do need to do that. That would be amazing, actually. Oh, she's drinking out of her one now. That's great. I can't really show you on the camera because it's like right in front of the screens, but she's very cute and she's got her face stuffed in a cup and she's drinking out. So let's get on to stuff because we're already 15 minutes in, and because I was late drying my hair, in case you're wondering where I was. The first thing I wanted to talk about was so this last weekend was the FGEN yearly conference, which is the Feminist Gender Equality Network conference, and there's a photo from it, and here is a blowhigh in a trans toilet. So this is the toilet that like Transaxual and some others, I think maybe FGEN too, got made and put outside the EHRC offices. And if you don't know what blowhigh is, then I guess you're not a trans person. No, for some reason this IKEA shark has become like the unofficial trans mascot. But yeah, I haven't got loads of photos from this yet, and I haven't seen the videos from it yet, but it's coming. But I went to the FGEN conference and I was a keynote speaker. In fact, how it worked out, I was the last keynote speaker. I don't know what I did to deserve that. I think that they had various people booked and some dropped out and some new ones came, and then some people couldn't be there at certain times of the day. It must be a nightmare organizing these like feminist conferences. But I was just like, yeah, I can be there all day. Whenever you need me, I'll be there. I'll be ready. And so being flexible means that sometimes you just get put into the best slot. So somehow I got away with being like the headliner of the whole thing, which, yeah, not deserved at all. But there was some really, really cool talks. So going up to this, like I've done a few talks in a few places, but I haven't done one like at a major feminist conference or anything. And I made this talk thinking I'm going to kind of do something on the gender criticals and just, you know, just do a talk that I've done before, but similar and more updated and stuff. And then like 2 nights before, I looked at all of the titles of everyone else's talks, and I was like, oh my God, everyone else's titles look intense. Like it was very clear that most other people there were academics, and I'm not an academic. Well, I'm not an academic, but I have no like academic background for feminism at all. I'm just like a dickhead who's been in the trenches arguing feminist positions for years. But compared to some of these other people and some of these other talks, I was like, my God, my talk is not good enough. So I had this like frantic 2 nights before rework of my entire talk. And how it was set up was there was like a keynote speaker and then a bunch of breakaway lectures, and you could pick between different ones and panels and stuff. And then there was another keynote talk where everyone comes together, and then you go off and you go to separate talks, and you kind of mingle with the people there, and there's lunch and etc. And one of the things was really cool was to meet a bunch of people who I've been like, who might be in the chat, but some people who I've been like talking with and organizing with for 10 years, and I've never met them. Or I didn't even know what some of them look like because some people are anonymous online, and then someone comes over and they're like, oh, Katie, and I'm like, who the fuck is this? And then they're like, I'm someone on Twitter, and I'm like, no way, like that's so cool. So that was really nice. But also the the talk, like, I'm not an academic feminist. I have read some books, but I'm not like studying the field on the front lines of academia or anything. So lots of the talks were just incredible. I learned so much stuff. I felt almost like I couldn't get the sincerity across when I went up and talked to people afterwards. Like there was one amazing, or quite a few amazing talks on trans people's history and on law, and stuff. And you know, people afterwards, whenever someone gives a talk, you want to go up and say, "Oh, that was a really good talk." But I wanted to be like, I'm not just saying it. That was amazing. Like I learned so much from it. Yeah, there's one really good talk about trans people in the 1700s and discussing like the legal fallout of the EHRC and all this kind of stuff. Really good. Yeah, so really informative. And I recommend, if you're someone who can travel probably to London next time they do one, and you want to learn about this and organize with people and meet people who are experts and also people like me, then you should come to it because it was really good. Like really, like genuinely recommend it. Yeah, so that was really cool. I did my talk in the end on arguing with gender critical people because I was like, if all these experts are there going to be talking about what they're an expert in, what is the thing that I can say I'm an expert on? And that is arguing in the trenches with the worst people on earth. And I think it went well. So if you're in the chat and you're at the talk, thanks for coming. But yeah, it was really cool. It made me feel quite positive in a few ways. One was I was quite pleased that my talk went well. Obviously, that was quite nice. But also to see a bunch of like, the thing with academics is they're good at being academics, and not every academic, I'm trying to be polite here, is good at media engagement. And so sometimes when you're activisting on Twitter and stuff, you can kind of forget about that side of it a bit and end up focusing too much on news stories, and then feel like you know the whole landscape. Maybe this is just me, maybe I'm just an idiot, but sometimes I feel like, oh, I know the landscape of trans rights, and then I go to a talk and they say, oh, this is about trans people's history, and I'm like, I know this, I know all the talking points, I know when the first GRS was, I know when they first started prescribing hormones. Like I feel like I have a decent grip of trans history back to like the 1930s. And then the first talk's like, we're going to talk some like trans history that's not that far back, so we're going to start in like 1790. And I was like, 1790, okay. And there's just like so much that I just was like, wow, I know nothing about this. That was incredible. And it makes you realize that there are loads of people doing real cutting edge research work, real like important philosophical and legal and history work, which is making progress, which isn't always super obvious. And because it's never going to be a mainstream news item, it can be lost. And it shows that people like me, or maybe just me, need to connect better with that kind of stuff to make it more well known. Yeah, one of the takeaways I had from particularly the history talks was like the stuff the gender criticals are saying today literally is no different to what they were saying in like 1700. The wording sounds more modern English, but they're making the same arguments. And yeah, I mean, that in one sense that's kind of depressing because it's like, well, we're still here and they haven't got anything new in all that time. But also it's kind of reassuring that like it's all just the same. And like they literally have got nothing new, and it's just we just have more science now, so their like position gets more and more desperate because in 1790 claiming that there was a man essence and a woman essence and those things can't be changed, harder to challenge from a scientific standpoint because we didn't know as much about science. So yeah, it was good to see that. yeah, I thought I'd just share my experience of going to that conference and recommend it, or similar ones in the future if you ever get a chance. I think another big takeaway actually for me was organizing in person is just better than organizing online. You can meet people and get an idea of what they're like, their strengths and stuff. Lots of things come across differently when you're talking to someone. I think it brings people together more. It's much easier to get good discussions going, to hear from all different people. I'm sure if you're someone who's been organizing for years, you're like, I've been shouting about this for ages and why is no one doing it? Well, I'm on board now. So, and I don't think everyone is. So I just think it's important to share that. Yeah, it went well. So recommend for future. Wasn't really news. I just wanted to share my experience. Let's talk next about what kind of thing do we want? Positive news, or do we want a J.K. Rowling moment? They're like the two options. Or an EHRC thing. HRT saves lives. Yeah, it does. And it improves lives as well. It doesn't have to save your life in order to be worthwhile. It's just got to be net positive. And then it's good. And that's true for trans and cis people, because most people who take HRT are cis people, so it doesn't need to save your life. If you think you'll benefit from it, then do it. I've discovered that God created the woman in Genesis 2:25, and so God created a man with male and female organs in Genesis 1:25. So bigotry people must admit God was pro-trans. Yeah, or like Eve was made from Adam's rib, right? So should be genetically identical to him. So is an XY female. So wouldn't be allowed into the toilets in gender critical land. We want some positive news. Right, we're doing that. We're going to start with a piece of positive news. So actually, let me just get a better news article about this. I think I did have one, but it seems to have gone. Good stuff. This is a funny article. Go away. Sorry, 1 second. We'll be there in a sec. One more. I promise I did prepare this episode. I spent ages on it. But I also was showering, so. Okay, so I think this is really positive news, and I'm going to explain why. And I think it's not just generally positive news. I think it's specifically positive news for trans people everywhere, including in the UK. Even though what I'm going to discuss is Zoran Mamdani was the candidate, or was a candidate in not even the mayoral race, but in the race to see which candidate the Democratic Party in the US would put forward for the mayoral race of New York. So this might seem quite specific. This isn't even a guy who's won a political position. This is a guy who's like won a chance to win a political position. And he's a cis person. He's a Democrat. So you're just like, why is this interesting at all? But I think from a left-wing perspective, you can probably get a much better analysis of this from probably an American person, probably someone who's keeping track of left-wing politics in the US. However, just a summary is, he is quite left-wing, much more left-wing than the average Democrat, and he was running against an old guard person, like someone who's been there for ages, who previously has been mayor, and who represented the Democrats not changing. And this guy represents the Democrats changing, and he won out of those two options. And the New York mayor position is quite influential. New York has a lot of people living there. I've read that New York has more people in it than like loads of different states in the US, which is pretty crazy. But as this article here from The Guardian says, he offers New Yorkers a political revolution, and he won. So what I think is particularly important from my perspective about this is this guy did everything that the Democrats and also UK Labour and people who write for the UK Guardian and the general consensus of the like centre left, he did everything that they have been saying you shouldn't do. He like proudly supported and supports trans rights, and he just says it out loud. He is like proudly anti the genocide going on in Gaza and speaks out in favor of the Palestinian people affected by that. And he just says it. He doesn't do any worming or dog whistles offering his positions. And he seems to be legit. So like here we have a photo of him. Says here, he was at the rally for trans youth in February when he was polling single digits. So this isn't like a media appearance that he did last week in order to boost his last thing because he thought trans rights is popular. Because trans rights aren't really that popular. It's not that anti-trans positions are popular either. No one really cares about trans people. This guy seems to legitimately believe in this. And he's showing up at stuff. And then when the media challenged him, when the media came for him, because they did, I was just laughing at this article. So this is the New York Post. It's like a far-right bullshit thing, fake news website. But loads of the right-wing newspapers are absolutely horrified about this. Zoran Mamdani wants to spend $65 million on trans medical treatment, including for minors, if elected NYC mayor. They're really going hard on, and of course they're going hard on this, because they've been going hard on anyone who even hints at that they might not hate trans people in the US and even more so in the UK for years now. And generally how the Democrats and the Labour in the UK have treated this is, we don't want any bad headlines. We're going to step away from this. We're going to stop saying we support trans people. At best, we're going to not mention trans people at all. And like, this is the position that Sarah McBride has taken famously. Sarah McBride is a trans politician in the US who's been elected into the Senate, I think. And she has said, you know, we need to just chill out on trans rights and just show people that we're normal and it'll work out, kind of her position. It is a bit more difficult for Sarah because she is trans herself. I'm not dunking on her. I'm just saying that it seems that was the best mainstream Democrat, centre-left, English-speaking world, like political position that we could hope for. And this guy has just shown up and he's like, yeah, I support healthcare for trans people. And then these right-wing websites run some bullshit hit piece on him saying like, oh, you know, he's going to try and trans your child, spending millions of taxpayers' money. And he's just like, yep. And importantly, not only did he stand to his convictions, which is rare for a politician, no offense politicians who may or may not be watching this, it is rare, or at least it appears to be rare. He actually argued that position. That was like his main thing. Like, I watched some of his speeches and stuff. His main thing was, we're going to make New York affordable. I'm not trying to say like this dude was like, trans rights is my main position and then he got voted into office or anything like that. Not at all. His main thing was saying, I'm going to do a rent freeze and I'm going to make public transport free, and just a load of like generally popular left-wing positions, like populist left-wing positions. Free public transport and free healthcare and free childcare, like that kind of stuff, which is all really good. But also is pro-LGBT and also is like pro-religious freedom and anti-genocide and anti-bigotry, and particularly another thing he represents is, or this victory represents is, his main opponent was credibly accused of sexual assault by like 13 different women, which is just horrific. And loads of the Democratic establishment backed him. They spent so much money on it. I think it's like the most any New York mayor candidate or in a primary has ever spent on like campaign ads and stuff. Bill Clinton backed up this guy who's called Cuomo. Loads of people endorsed him. It really felt like the establishment, the like center left or the center right, really center right Democrats establishment backed this like establishment figure. And this other dude, Mamdani, who isn't some billionaire celebrity, kind of came from nowhere, stuck to his guns, said, we want change, we're going to take on Trump, we're going to support LGBT people and people from Gaza and other minorities, and we're going to make things like general left-wing positions. And he won. He won like a popular campaign against the odds. And that's why I think this is like specifically good for trans people, as well as just, this is just generally good news. It's good news when someone wants, like, even if it was just like the guy who wanted healthcare for children. It's so funny seeing like the attacks on this guy. Like Fox News is like, the things that Mamdani wants, and then it's like healthcare for children, like free school meals, free buses for old people. It's like, this is meant to be bad, is it? $30 minimum wage by 2030, like, and we're meant to be like horrified at that. But yeah, obviously it's like generally good news. But the fact that so much of the like global center left is reeling at the moment because we keep losing in elections, not just in the US and the UK, but in countries all over the world like Netherlands, Italy. Just the right has been on the rise for like a decade now. And everyone's arguing about how do we win these things. And then suddenly this like person comes along and goes against what they've been saying. Like if you go and look at like all of the talking heads in newspapers and on TV and stuff, they're saying things like, we need to give up on trans rights, or we need to throw trans people under the bus because ordinary working class people are sick of all this trans stuff. And they're basically saying what we should do is we should become more conservative on social issues, particularly trans rights, abortion, and like Gaza, and that will win us votes. And that is like really hard what the Labour Party have been going on. They're doing all these attacks on disabled people, they're doing attacks on trans people, and it's like the only actual political positions, and they're hoping that they can win over the centre-right voters to vote for them. And that's their like strategy. And this guy just, you know, hasn't just like offered an alternative, but like completely crushed that narrative. And seeing as the Labour Party in the UK is in power, like they had one of the biggest majorities in years, like because the Conservative Party here just fell apart and was such a disaster. Labour like filled the power vacuum. They had basically a free mandate to do whatever they wanted, and somehow they've done nothing but attack disabled people and trans people. And they're floundering. They're failing in the polls. It looks like they're going to lose to the far-right party. If the election was held today, they would lose to the real extreme far-right party in this country. And they all must be looking at the polls. And there are some people in these centre-left parties who aren't just factional, caring about pushing forward their centre-right ideas. They'll be thinking, you know, we're trying all this Keir Starmer stuff. We're trying all this like Chuck Schumer stuff where we keep our heads low, we avoid bad headlines, we give up on trans people and disabled people and pregnant people and poor people, and we just hope that we can win that way. And now they see this guy come along and he's like, trans rights, gay rights, poor people's rights, like people, genocide is bad. Like he just fucking says it. They must be waking up to this and be like, maybe we should stop resisting these like young upcoming alternatives and show like an actual left-wing position. And I think it's given me some hope. I think this is just generally good news. You should think this is good news in general. It's good news for trans people, and I'm hoping it'll be reflected in the UK. I know that we've got Zach Palensky, who's running to be the leader of the Green Party, and he's like a similar figure. And also we've obviously got Jeremy Corbyn, who is kind of a similar figure, and he's still in office and probably will be re-elected and is threatening to make a new political party. There could be a left-wing coalition in the UK. And importantly, all these people are saying trans rights. They're not saying trans rights is the number one. In fact, I would be more than happy if trans rights was their 50th issue. Like, I do not give a fuck. All I want is someone who isn't explicitly anti-trans rights, because I'm so sick of that. And that's all we have constantly. Like, goblin-y Wes Streeting types who just hate trans people and grim. So if we can just get someone who's just happy to say, I support trans rights, trans people should have better rights, it's not my number one policy, it's my number 20 policy, that would just be incredible. So fingers crossed. We got to hope this guy wins mayor. He's probably going to win mayor. And we got to hope that all of the people who have power over the US Democrats and the UK Labour Party and other left-wing parties around the world are looking at this and saying, maybe we can support trans rights and win. And you know what? If you do support trans rights and win, suddenly, like, there's LGBT voters in every single country. And lots of them are looking at parties like the Democrats and Labour at the moment and being like, I don't want to vote for these people. They're like actively attacking my community. They might vote for you like holding their nose, but they might not. And you've had like historically low voter turnouts in favor of centre-left parties recently. And now you see this guy fucking smashing it. It is a benefit. It's not net negative. It's not something you can just get away with. Like, if you say you support trans rights and you support Gaza and stuff, people fucking turn up and vote for you. So I would be inspired to vote Labour. I'm not going to vote Labour as they are now, but I would be if they started saying we're actually not evil. We're actually doing something good. So yeah. Anyway, that's positive. I've seen we've had a few super chats. Let's make sure we keep on top of super chats this time. Let's get them up. Thank you very much, everyone who sends a super chat. It's super kind. I really hope you don't ever feel like obliged or that you owe me. You don't owe me super chats, but if you want to send them, I am genuinely appreciative, and it's very kind of you. So let's have a look. Why is the date thing on this so rubbish? It says that I've got a load of super... It says my most recent super chat was from yesterday. I didn't even have a live stream yesterday. Right. So our first one is £5 from Sean Isherwood. Sierpinski's triangle has no area. This is when measured with a powerful tool called Lebesgue. Okay, measure. That means, that seems impossible. How can it have no area? Thanks, Sean. We love Sean's maths. Rachel M sent $2. Thank you very much. That's very kind. Kenshin sent $2 and says, keep up the amazing work. I plan to. Sean sent another one, £10. Thank you very much, Sean. That's super kind. And has sent a reference, according to Wikipedia. Helmberg, 2007, Getting Acquainted with Fractals. Page 41. Basically, each iteration is 3/4 of the area of the last. Area is not a dimension. That's got over my head a bit. Thanks, though. And Rachel sent another one. $2 has sent on set chair. Thank you very much. Cool sticker. Right, let's move on to the next thing. So we're going to have to do a J.K. Rowling thing, guys. I'm afraid it's the only option. Oops, sorry. Didn't mean to sniff down the microphone there. Smash that like button. Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, sorry, we're doing a Joanne. Sorry, everyone. We've got to do 3 different J.K. Rowling stories this week. If you don't like that, then just come back next week. Because I'm sorry, there's other good news. Like, there is a reason to stick around, but we just got to fucking cover this stuff. Sorry, disgusting. So yeah, I've seen a few people calling for it. We'll do J.K. Rowling's threats first. So this week, J.K. Rowling has, and I do have to be careful in describing this because as we know, she does not like criticism and she will sue you if you criticize her. I think, in my opinion, J.K. Rowling has called for vigilante action against trans people and women who look wrong, according to her. So, someone has said, and how are you planning to police public toilets? And obviously, when people ask this, what they mean is, if you're going to make a law saying trans people are banned from the toilet, how are you going to police that in law? How is that law ever going to happen? How are you ever going to use that law in court or in a legal challenge way? You're not, because there's no situation where you're going to be able to know for sure what someone's current biological sex is or what their birth sex was. Because they might themselves not even know. You could demand a chromosome test from everyone, and then 1 in 100 people's chromosome test would be different to what they thought it was going to be, and then suddenly, they lose their human rights on the spot? The gender critical position is completely stupid. Anyway, J.K. Rowling gives us the answer that we all knew was inevitable. She says, quite easily really, decent men will stay out, as they always have, so we can assume all who don't are a threat, given their disregard for women and girls' safety, privacy, and dignity. Photographing, reporting, and disseminating such men's images online will be a piece of cake. So you always have to decode gender criticals a bit because they have their own bullshit language. What she is saying, when she says men, she is talking about trans women. She is saying that decent trans women, and I guess cis men, will stay out of women's toilets. And so any trans woman who still uses women's facilities, as they have done literally for her entire life, so anyone who doesn't upend their own life just to obey J.K. Rowling's demands, her authoritarian demands on how you should run your life and whether you should risk your safety for her or not, anyone who doesn't do that is, in her view, not decent and is a threat. So not just like she doesn't agree with you, but she is actively claiming that you're a threat to women if you use the toilet. And just to be clear, every single trans woman in the country uses women's spaces all the fucking time. I do it every single day, and I have done for over 10 years. And that isn't some revolutionary act. It is normal. I go to the toilet when I go to the service stations, when I'm driving somewhere, when I'm at work, when I go to the gym, like when I go to the pub, when I go and play Pokemon cards somewhere. It's normal. That's what people do. They go to the toilet. And I go in and I do a wee and I come out and I wash my hands just like everyone else. And the thing is, when she says we can assume all trans women are a threat, she knows they're not actually a threat. Like, no gender critical person is actually afraid of trans women in that sense. They're not afraid that a trans woman there who's washing her hands or like checking her makeup in the mirror or something is an actual threat. They don't feel like, oh my god, this person's going to attack me, this is a danger to me. They feel disgust. They are afraid of us in the sense of they're afraid of our existence in society ruining their worldview and endangering their hierarchy of men at the top and women at the bottom, and it shakes up the patriarchal worldview. They're not actually terrified of us in the way that, you know, if there was like a polar bear in the toilets with you, you'd be fucking terrified. That isn't the case at all. They just say that they say words in order to justify the actions they want to do. What they want to do is attack us. What they want to do is put us in prison. What they want to do is ruin our lives. So in order to justify that, they have to say things like, all trans women are a threat. All trans women disregard women's safety. Like, as if me doing a wee in the service station and washing my hands is affecting anyone's safety in any way at all. Of course it's not. She knows it's not. I know it's not. You know it's not. Everyone here knows it's not. That's not the point of us saying this stuff. It's to drum up people into a rage. The idea is if you've never encountered a trans woman before, you've never engaged with us, you don't really know what we are or anything, in your mind we're just other. We're just another thing, like a dehumanized entity, just a concept. And you read things like, people are being a threat to women. They're disregarding safety and privacy and dignity. It makes you angry. And then you're just in this rage where you're like, yes, we need to destroy these people. We need to put these people in prison. We need to like lynch these people or whatever they want to do. And this is just how like dehumanizing works on large scale. And then she is calling for, and I don't think it's unreasonable to describe these as vigilante actions, because these aren't, like, when this person says, how do you police this? They mean, how does police this? How does security at the venue police this? How do we need toilet guards? Do we need a fingerprint system? Do we need like a DNA test in order, like, that's what they mean by policing. They don't mean how do we as a lawless society ensure that people do what we want. Like, we don't police speeding by people taking photos of people they think are going too fast and then just ruining their life on the internet without proof. We have like speed cameras and police with cameras which can measure how fast you're going. Whether you agree with speed limits or not at the point. You get what I'm saying. Or, you know, speed cameras. I know a lot of people fucking hate speed cameras. I'm not defending speed cameras. So she's not saying doing something lawful. She's not saying the police should be doing X, or venue owners should be doing X, or we should be installing X system into whatever. She's saying members of the public should be photographing, reporting, and disseminating men's images online. So obviously the goal of this is to target random people and humiliate them, ruin their lives, get them fired from their jobs, get them attacked on the street, make them a victim of online harassment. But also, it's really important when she talks about men, and when she's talking about men, she means trans women, and it can get you into this mindset where you're like, she's telling people to target trans women, and trans women out there will be, you know, we're in trouble. And it's very easy to think, oh, you know, they'll be able to spot all the trans women, and how are they gonna know who's a trans woman and who isn't a trans woman? They aren't. They're going to see people who they think that might be a trans woman, and they'll post their photo online. And sure, some trans women stand out more than others. And some, like, if you came out 6 weeks ago, you're more likely to not pass as much as if you came out 20 years ago or whatever. Fair enough. And people like that are more likely to be targeted by this kind of thing. But it's not like transphobes are very good at this. They are constantly calling cis women men. We see it all the time. I mean, we've done stories on this channel just constantly about some random cis women. It usually is cis women. And statistically, it's always usually going to be cis women. Because our percentage of women don't fit into what most people's idea of what a woman should look like. And that percentage of women is like 1%, 2%, who knows? But it's more than there are trans people, full stop. There are more women who are like masculine presenting, or have short hair, or are taller than 6 foot, or whatever it is, who have an Adam's apple, who have a deeper voice, whatever, more cis women who fit that description than there are trans women at all. And a bunch of trans women pass. So I'm not trying to say this is going to affect cis women and that's why it's bad and disregard trans people. You know, I am worried about this because it could affect me. It could affect people I care about who are trans people. And it's obviously targeted at trans people. But the point is, this is going to affect all women. This is going to affect, like, I know recently we discussed how the director of Good Law Project, Joe Malm, his wife had a double mastectomy for cancer. And she was confronted in the toilets by some gender-critical dickhead who said that she was a man or something because she had to have her breast removed because of cancer. And that isn't rare. Like, it's not every day. You don't meet someone who's had a double mastectomy every single day. Or, I mean, maybe you do if you're a doctor. But I don't interact with someone who's had a double mastectomy every day of my life. But I have met them before. Like, I haven't met more than one person like that. And someone like that, why should they worry that they might go out and they might not even encounter but be seen from a distance by one of J.K. Rowling's hateful cultist types and then have their photo put up online, and then what, best case, you end up with like some Kiwi Farms hate campaign. They find out where you live, they find out where you work, and they send a load of abuse and say you should be fired and stuff, and then you have to like post online or tell your boss or something, oh, I've actually had a double mastectomy because of cancer. Like, that's not a stressless event. Like, that is a distressing scenario at best. Like, that's the best case. Even if J.K. Rowling's hateful cult manages to precision target and find every single trans woman and ruin their lives, and you think, fuck it, I don't care about trans women, ruin their lives, that's fine. There's still going to be some cis women caught up in this, and it's going to ruin their lives too, and at best, it's terrible for them, and you just don't give a fuck. And then, again, the underlying point behind all of this is, why? For what reason? Like, who benefits from this? Other than, like, when was the last time J.K. Rowling ever used a public anything? Like, she's a billionaire. She probably, like, has a helipad that she can fly to her gold-plated toilet or whatever. Does she even leave her castle? No one benefits from this. When I go to the toilet in a service station, no one even looks at me. No one notices because no one cares. And I don't look at anyone either. Because in a service station, you're not there to interact with people. It's not like a night out at the pub. You're not potentially going to compliment someone on their hair. You're not even going to look at their hair because you're there to, like, get a Burger King and get out and get petrol or whatever. Yeah, so there's no like gain from this at all. But there's a lot of negative. Obviously, the goal here is to make trans people too terrified to leave the house. But a secondary result of this, and a secondary goal for a lot of people, I'm not necessarily saying J.K. Rowling's secondary motivation is policing all women's gender presentation, though I couldn't ever in good faith tell you that definitely isn't what she wants. But a lot of her cultist types fucking hate women. They think that all women should be barefoot pregnant in the kitchen, churning out one kid a year, and not voting and not disagreeing with their abusive husband. Like, that's the, like, far right position, and loads of her supporters are far right dickheads. And when they accidentally or otherwise target some cis woman who doesn't fit into their ideal of woman, they're not gonna, like, maybe J.K. Rowling, if she personally targeted a random cis woman and they're like convinced her somehow that they were a cis woman, maybe she would feel bad about it. Maybe she would apologize. Most of them won't. Most of them would be like, good, because I also want to target you because you're a lesbian or someone with short hair or someone I consider ugly. Like, you've seen how these fucking far-right weirdos treat women who they don't want to have sex with. They're disgusting to them. Like, this is really extreme, and I think quite realistically, in another country or targeted at another minority, this would be a real criminal issue. And I think she's lucky that there's no justice in the UK. She is personally above the law anyway, and the UK government and police force would be way too terrified to ever actually enforce any kind of call to action against trans people's safety, because we're second-class citizens in this country. Just thought I'd look at some of the replies. Here she's saying, it's quite remarkable how many men are happy to announce they don't think women and girls are entitled to any space in which they can't enter. They might as well staple a red flag to their foreheads. I mean, it's not many men, or like cis men, or trans women, or trans men at all, actually. It's like, even if you just say all trans women, there's hardly any of us as far as it goes globally. So, like, complete nonsense. And just, there's no, like, some of the media is still trying to say that her being called transphobic is controversial. And here she is saying all trans women who think that trans women should use the toilets, which is like, what, 99.9% of us, are red flags, a threat to women. Like, how could you describe this as anything else? This is, like, crazy. I called this, by the way, years ago. You can probably find a clip of me saying this. As soon as she did her little post coming out in 2020, saying that she supported Mayor Forstater, I knew it would be a matter of years before she was posting these, like, immigrants crimes style low quality JPEG montages, claiming to be trans women or whatever. This was inevitable. Like, this is the, well, it's not the end point. This is a point along the conspiracy mind, like, brain rot. And you've seen them posting this about immigrants. You see them posting this about Jewish people. You see them posting this about, like, gay people. And of course, you see them posting about trans people. It's just a classic thing. Like, who even are these people? Why do you think this justifies anything? You think that I should be banned for, like, even if we just took it at face value that all of these are allegedly trans women, maybe, and I mean, usually when you look these up, they're actually just not at all, and it's just like some made up story from Redux, or it's someone who once said they cross-dressed, or it's someone with, like, one time I looked at one of these people and it was literally just a man with a long hair who, it didn't mention anything about being trans or cross-dressing or hormones, or, like, it wasn't even tangentially related. It was literally just like a man with slight features and long hair, who hadn't done anything, like, in women's spaces. He'd, like, sexually assaulted someone. It was like sexually assaulted his own girlfriend or something, and they put it as a trans crime. But, you know, even if we take this at face value and say this is a bunch of trans people who have committed crimes, like, do you think that justifies taking away my human rights? I mean, when people post a montage of, like, immigrants who have committed crimes, do you, J.K. Rowling, think that means we should take away immigrants' rights? When someone posts, like, a montage of, like, you know, 25 allegedly gay people who are pedophiles, do you think that that means we should take away gay people's right to marry, to work in a nightclub, to be a teacher? Like, how could you ever argue that this, what you're doing here, is a consistent strategy that is moral and valid across all issues? The only way you could do that was if you were a far-right piece of shit who was opposed to all minority rights. And I don't see how we could ever draw any other conclusion from this kind of behavior. Like, here you're advocating Stasi tactics, it won't save one woman and will hurt many. And then this is her response? And we're supposed to treat her as, like, a rational, normal person who's capable of, like, normal moral views? Like, she is beyond it. Like, it's completely ridiculous anyone's still defending her. And this guy, like, this is one of her top replies, okay, because it boosts blue ticks. Just saying, Palestinians and trans women, both inventions to try and justify letting people into places they have no right to. Like, there is a correlation between, there is absolutely a strong correlation between people who hate trans people and people who support the genocide against Gazans. Like, it's not a one-to-one correlation, There are some people who only think one and some people only think the other. But like, generally, I don't know what, 9 out of 10 times, if you find out someone's opinion on one of those two things, you already know their opinion on the other. Straight underneath, the 3 great fictions: the Palestinian nation, Islamophobia, and trans women. Like, this is her comment section. Like, what we're still trying to pretend that the person posting this is a feminist, is left wing. The billionaire posting some kind of immigrants' crimes JPEG is a left wing feminist. Like, come on, what are you talking about? So anyway, I'm not shocked by this development. I think this was inevitable. I think she will continue doing this. I mean, she is doing the same path as Graham Linehan and every other like loser dickhead who's lost their mind over trans rights. This won't be the last of it. This won't be the most extreme thing she ever does. She will get more extreme. Her calls to action will get more explicit. I'd be surprised if they didn't. Obviously, in my opinion, everything I've said here is my opinion. But yes, it's just going to get more and more extreme. So the last thing I want to say on this is, don't let this scare you into not living your life. It is scary. It is scary that there are multiple billionaires out there who want to ruin your life, and they have almost unlimited power compared to you. But what they want is they want you to give up, because you do have power to fight back against them. We've just seen in New York the mayoral candidate, like a normal person, fight back against the establishment and win whilst supporting trans rights. Like, we have power as normal people. And if we just give up, if you just stay at home and you give up on all your hobbies and you like quit your job, and I don't even know how you would exist, to be honest, without using public spaces. But if you were able to and you did that, then she just wins. She just wins for free, and she's not going to stop. Like, she's not going to stop when you can, like, trap yourself in your house. She's going to come for taking away your healthcare next. She's going to, like, start doing checks on people, and you'll be, like, just on the street, and they'll arrest you for cross-dressing or something. Just, you can't give up. I know it's horrible. We're in a horrible position, but, like, there's no other option. The only option you have is to continue living your life and doing your best to be happy. And that is, I promise you, what I'm going to do. I'm not going to back down on this at all. I'm either going to live the rest of my life just as I have done for the last 10 years, or I'm going to end up in prison for washing my hands in a service station toilet. I mean, that's it. That's the only options you face. And the more of us who stand up to this, the more power we have. Like, we've just got to stand with each other. We have to be ready. The day will come soon when one of our cultists attacks a trans person on the street. It's going to happen, if it hasn't already happened. And when it happens, me and you have to be there for that trans person or cis woman who is targeted, to fund their legal bills, fund their medical bills, offer them moral support, offer their family support, and come around them as a community. That is what we have to do. And if you're too terrified to act, you won't be able to do that. You just have to be brave, and it's just grim. But it's what's going to happen, and it's what I'm going to do, and it's what you're going to do, and I believe you can do it. So, I mean, fuck these people. Absolutely fuck them. Like, if you think that these are the good guys who are going to come out in history with people saying, oh yeah, J.K. Rowling was right along, you are having a fucking joke. Just look at the state of them. So, like, we're going to win this. You just have to do your best. So, that was kind of a negative J.K. Rowling thing. So, maybe we should cover a good thing in response. Just, you know, just to get it out of the way. And then we'll cover some more good news. So, what's the best? I think this article's best, to be honest. Let me just zoom in a bit. Just got to make sure I got the right thing. Yeah, okay. So if you don't know, this is Pedro Pascal. And he is like, I was thinking about this earlier. He is like the reverse chaser. So if you don't know what a chaser is generally, it's often a straight cis man who like fancies trans women in particular and has like a fetish for trans women, and then they'll have sex with you and they'll talk about you in a creepy way, and then as soon as they're done, they'll never want to talk to you again and will interact with you, and they're ashamed by you. And they like, sometimes I get my comments like a man who's wanting to date someone and they turn out to be trans and he's worried about being a chaser. If you're worried about it, it's not you. There's this like really obvious example group of people who are like these creepy weirdos who treat trans people as a fetish. And so often as like a public trans person, you end up with this like horde of creepy chasers. Pedro Pascal is like the complete opposite of that because he's probably like the man who most trans women on earth fancy. I'm sure. Okay, all the straight and bisexual trans women, and probably a bunch of the gay and bisexual trans men too. You can see why, but it's not just his smile. It's because he has had enough. He has fucking given up being like quiet about this. He is just unashamedly pro-trans and he keeps talking about it, and like, yeah, it's good. He's good. An interesting piece of trivia about him, like probably the reason that he's so pro-trans is his sister is a trans woman. So here is his sister, who, like, some families are just genetically blessed and it is not fair. Anyway, so we've got this news. This is from BuzzFeed, so it's a bit of a drama article, but like it's still interesting to follow it. So an activist on Instagram saying, "It has become our mission as the general public to make sure that every single thing that's Harry Potter related fails because they're awful, disgusting shit that has consequences." So they're talking about there's a new Harry Potter TV series, which we will talk about later actually. And J.K. Rowling has said that the money that she earns, she's going to pour into her legal fund to sue people who support trans people. Like, so directly paying for Harry Potter stuff supports attacks on trans people's rights in the UK. Like, that's not an opinion, that's just a fact. Anyway, Pedro Pascal liked the video and replied in the comments, "Awful, disgusting shit is exactly right. Heinous loser behaviour." What a lad. Okay. So that caused like some drama because Pedro Pascal is kind of like a megastar. I mean, what was the last thing he's been in? Hey, look at him. Anyway. So let's just quickly. So he was in The Last of Us, The Mandalorian, Game of Thrones, Kingsman. Like, okay, he kind of is like an A-list celebrity. So it was kind of like news when he came for J.K. Rowling, who's like one of the most famous evil billionaires on earth. So there was a Vanity Fair article he opened about. I mean, BuzzFeed articles, you know, they just break up a little fact with just a nice picture. Anyway, Pedro opened up about his decision to speak out publicly against J.K. Rowling's behavior, and his response was about as refreshing as it gets. In the interview, Pedro said that his response to the comment made him feel like that kid made him feel like that kid that got sent to the principal's office a lot for behavioral issues in public schools in Texas, feeling scared. What did I do? One thing that I would say I'm agonizing over a little bit is, am I helping? Am I fucking helping? I think yes. We'll discuss that in a minute. He added, it's a situation that deserves the utmost elegance so that something can actually happen and people actually be protected. Now, this comment's good. Listen, I want to protect the people I love, but it goes beyond that. Bullies make me fucking sick. Right above the smuggest picture of her. Well, not the cigar photo. Anyway, and then this caused drama over the internet, you know, in all of the drama channel websites and celebrity worship newspapers and stuff. But he didn't back down on it, and neither did his family. His sister Lux has also defended him, saying, "But it is heinous loser behavior." And he said that as the older brother to someone saying that our little sister doesn't exist. She's right. He's right. It is heinous loser behavior. She is a heinous loser, and this is her behavior. So it's good to see celebrities being pro-trans rights, because we see plenty of them who aren't. It's good to see anyone being trans rights. I don't think a celebrity being trans rights is any more valid than someone else being pro-trans rights. Why it is good is because there are lots of people whose opinions are formed by what celebrities say, and that is depressing. I don't think it's new. It's probably always been true in human history. It's certainly been true since I've been alive, and it's probably got worse since TV and magazines and now the internet. Maybe it's even got better now, actually, because now there's less. Like, in the time of magazines and TV, when there was just like 4 channels on TV or 3 or whatever, there was fewer celebrities, and they were like ultra celebrities. You know, like the status like Michael Jackson has. Everyone on earth has heard of Michael Jackson. And now you get these big celebrities like XQC or whatever his name is. There's a certain demographic where everyone in that age range knows who that is. But loads of other people don't know who that is. Like, if you're online a lot, you know who, like, PewDiePie is because he's the most subscribed to YouTuber, but my mum doesn't know who he is. So there's more celebrities now in this one. Anyway, people still base their opinions on celebrities' worldviews, which is stupid. But also, it's just good to see someone, like, not holding their tongue. Like, I'm sick of this fucking, everyone's got to be polite to J.K. Rowling because she's an upstanding member of society and she just needs people to talk around. She's a fucking insane cultist type who's calling for vigilante action against trans people now, and who's funding attacks on our human rights, which are in this country working. And of course people are fucking sick of it. Like, calling her a fucking loser and a bullying piece of shit or whatever he was calling her. Yeah. I mean, we're beyond the point where, oh, you're not helping because you're causing a scene. Like, maybe, arguably, in 2020, some people would have been like, oh, he's not helping, he's just causing a stir, we just need to calm down. No, we're in a point where we're losing human rights left, right, and centre, and we need people to fucking stand up for us. And it's not like him saying that she's a loser on Instagram is going to change the world, but, like, everyone should be doing this. We need to shame these people. People need to stand up for trans people and say that they're fucking sick of bullies, point out that she is a bully, and make people know about it. Like, it's horrific. She's spending millions of pounds on trying to ruin our lives. So good for him standing up for her. If you're watching, I know you're worried that you're not doing enough or that this isn't doing a good thing. I think this is a good thing. And everyone could always be doing more, I guess. I could be doing more. But, like, being a public figure and standing up for trans people is a burden. It's hard work. Probably easier when you're a international megastar cis man, but it's still easier to not say anything. So good on him. We might just blend straight into our third and final J.K. Rowling thing. Are you sick of J.K. Rowling yet, or do you want some good news in between? How's everyone in chat doing? J.K. Rowling is the biggest incel to ever exist. I don't think that's true. I mean, she is married. She probably has, I think she has children. So, she probably had sex a few times. I'm not really convinced incel is the best description of her. I mean, transphobic, cultist, conspiracy theorist, far-right activist, idiot, bully. Like, these are all better ways of describing her. Because the incel movement is, like, kind of specific in what they think and believe. She's politically aligned with a lot of incels, but isn't her stuff. It isn't her, like, specific issue, is it? Less J.K. Rowling. Sorry, I'm sorry. We just covering. It's just a J.K. Rowling episode, all right? I'm sorry. Well, I long for the day where we never have to talk about her again. Okay, we'll talk about some positive news in the break. We might do some more news. We'll do a bunch of news. Okay. So today, what's the best photo to introduce with this with? Today was the trans rights mass lobby in Parliament. So here we have the Parliament building and a bunch of people queuing to get in. Turns out, like, there was so many people that I was seeing reports that people waited in a queue for 4 hours to go in. So what this was a organized mass lobby. And the idea is that you message your MP and say, I'm coming into Parliament on this day along with everyone else who shares this issue, and I want to talk to you about this issue. And the idea is that every MP is there and everyone goes in and talks to their MP about whatever issue. And it's a thing they do in the UK politics. And hundreds of trans people went to London. I mean, a bunch live in London, but I know people travelled across the country for this. I wasn't there, unfortunately. But they went in and waited hours and hours in the queue to go in and just say to their MP, this is the person who you're targeting, or this is the person who you're ignoring, or thank you for supporting us, here's some more information, or whatever. Just to be there and be a real person, because if you're an MP, you preside over thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in your constituency, and there are loads of people coming at you with their special issues. So it's very easy to just see everything as like a statistic and whatever. And when you meet someone, I mean, this is trans people's biggest political strength, is we're people, and all of the propaganda about us just crumbles away just in one meeting with us. Sometimes all it takes is a 20-minute talk with a trans person, and you're like, wow, okay, this is just a normal person who's worried about their future, understandably. So anyway, that was it was good to see that anyone turned up to this at all. There were actually hundreds of people. Some people you might recognize. So here is Abigail Thorne, for example, who went along to this mass lobby. So Trans Solidarity Alliance, one of the groups that organized it, which is really cool. Like, there was just so many people here in order to do this, which was just incredible. There was quite a good few pictures. There's like a flag, Trans Joy is powerful. It was like a protest thing, but more importantly, it was like a real people meet your MP kind of thing. And I also wanted to just like do a little side highlight here. What the Trans is a media organization, news outlet for trans people by trans people. I'm not associated with them. I've talked with some of them I know reasonably well from organizing over the last few years. You should follow What the Trans. It's a very like unashamedly trans person. Trans people do trans stuff. Like they're not writing the news for anyone else. If you're a cis person, I'm sure you would find it interesting, but if you're a trans person, this is probably like more for you. And they often get someone on the ground for these events and report it. They do these like live tweet kind of reporting. They write articles too. I recommend these. They also do a podcast. It's probably like my one, but better. I don't know. You should probably check that out. No, I mean, not my. I don't really have a podcast. It's like this, but better with more people and more views and stuff. But yeah, they were live reporting on this, and one of the things that I was concerned about. Actually, we probably should have covered this first. But we'll cover this now at the same time, is this event has been known about for weeks. This has been planned for a while. And the day before this event, possibly a coincidence, possibly not, the day before this event, Parliament changed their regulations to say that trans women are banned from women's toilets in Parliament. Now, two things here. One is, that's kind of bad. That's a really grim sign of where this government is heading. This is before the EHRC consultation is finished. This is before we've had any guidance. This is like a knee-jerk response. This article is kind of rubbish, actually, from The Independent. But one of the things I was worried about, and what the trans covered here, is it felt a little bit like, maybe this is a bit tinfoil hat, but it felt a little bit like someone has gender critical, either who writes these guidelines or who was lobbied by them to change the guidelines, so that when they knew that like hundreds of trans people would be coming to Parliament, that they could like station people outside the toilets and confront them. That is something I wanted to cover. Let's see if I can just find it. So obviously, no, it's not who I'm trying to find. I'll find it in the background in a minute. Ignore me. I'll edit that bit out. So one of the worries about this is the gender criticals want to cause negative news stories about trans people, and if like the news isn't going to cover hundreds or thousands of trans people turning up to Parliament in a historic moment, the biggest LGBT lobby of possibly of all time, pushing for a major political issue at the moment. The British media doesn't cover such things. But if some gender critical people confronted a trans woman and that trans woman lost her temper and told them to fuck off, or pushed past them, or even just walked in and went to the toilet anyway, they could frame it as like violent trans activists disregarding the rules and calling for us to be arrested or something. So I was concerned that something along those lines might happen. So like obviously no trans person is gonna follow these rules, like get fucked. If I ever get invited, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say it on air. If I ever get invited to Parliament again, obviously I'm going to use the right toilets. I did last time, because now I probably won't get invited. But if I don't get invited, like if you're the person who okays invites to Parliament, and you're sent this clip saying I shouldn't be invited because of my position, can you not see how this is banning trans people from participating in the democratic process? If like hundreds of trans people here turned up to talk to their MP and they changed the rules to try and ban them from using the toilet, where are they going to go to the toilet? Like, oh, you could use the segregated facility around the corner. You could use no one's going to do that. Like, you wouldn't use the wrong toilet if they change the rules to just ban you from the toilet, would you? You would just do it anyway because you're not subhuman. So if you then start uninviting trans people or banning them because they might use the correct toilet, then they can't participate in democracy. So that's like the point in rules like this. It's to push trans people out of society. But I didn't actually see, I mean, maybe there were. I didn't see that there was any confrontation, so that's good. I know that some people were talking about the gender criticals whining about it and saying it was a harrowing experience to see a trans person use the toilet or whatever. Just fucking get a real hobby. But yeah, what the trans recorded some interviews, so you should definitely check that out. But yeah, it was good to see. There was loads of photos. It was kind of wanted they said that they used the toilets there. That was a notable update. So there's a huge queue. So this was like 7 hours ago. So this was like 2 p.m. So it's still like in full swing. There was huge queues. There was like flags and stuff. There was a video here. Like, that's quite that's quite a lot of people. Like, bearing in mind this is a Wednesday. I don't know what time you're watching this clip. This is a Wednesday work day, middle of the day. Like, the reason I couldn't go to this is because London is like 2 or 3 hours away from me, and I have a job. So this is, I understand that they've got to pick a time when, they've just got to pick a time when they can get a slot, but most people can't get time off work to travel across the country to see their MP, even if they wanted to, even if they had energy for that. But I'd like only just traveled to London for another thing, pushing for trans rights. So I couldn't take time off work. I couldn't face traveling that far. Call me a slacker, whatever. But I think a lot of people wouldn't have gone to this just because it was difficult, but still hundreds of people did, which is really cool. So they were also saying there was a bunch of MPs there, which is really good to see. Hearing some folks had to queue for over 4 hours to get in, which is just mad. Second-hand accounts from staffers saying that this is the largest mass lobby they've ever seen in Parliament in the 11 years they've been working there. That's pretty cool. And yeah, you can support What the Trans for their journalism on various things, which I recommend. They say, it was incredible to see so many people come into Westminster, and it's another show of trans people showing up. Like, importantly, gender criticals could never achieve these numbers. They never have, and they never will. When they do a protest, 30 people turn up, and it makes national news. Left or right, it's a big topic. When trans people hold a protest, 40,000 people turn up, and the news doesn't cover it. That's the reality we live in, and that's why trans news organizations are important to support, because we have to create our own media networks, because the ones owned by cis people aren't ever going to support us. But yeah, this will definitely get noticed. Hundreds and hundreds of people came to demand to meet their MP. It's a feat, as I mentioned, would never be achieved by anti-trans activists. They claim to speak up for a large swathe of the population, that they never appear in such numbers. Amidst possible threats of them causing an incident, they did not materialise. When I spoke to volunteers, the majority of meetings went positively. The organisers struggled to get a proper figure for how many people came, and if the majority of those people had a positive meeting with their MP, that is important. We hope they organise another one, and if they do, we need to keep coming relentlessly and bigger every time. So yeah, this is really, like, I think this is really great to see. It's really inspiring to see. And like, this kind of pressure, this is what's making a difference. We're seeing politicians talk about this more. We're seeing pressure being put on the EHRC. We're seeing like them backtracking on things, and like, we're building momentum, we're building pressure, and you need to, every time something like this happens, you need to not just read it as a headline and move on. You need to actively be like, this is a good thing happening for me by people who support me and who are in a similar position to me. And I need to get energy from this. Like, it's good to feel motivated by this. Don't feel guilty for being like, yeah, this is great. This is great. And if you couldn't go to this, maybe you can go to the next one. And if you can't go to the next one, maybe you can meet your MP nearer to your house. Maybe you can call them up on the phone. Maybe you can write them a letter. This pressure does make a difference. And I know it's slow and it's grinding. It's like relentless, but you know, this, we just have to get noticed. We don't have the media on our side, so this is how we get noticed. Now, last thing I did want to add on this. So, yeah, Parliament banned trans women from using, and trans men from using the facilities in the House of Commons and House of Lords. However, they own, like, absolutely crazy. It is understood there has been no change to the policy of staff who work there. So this is literally explicitly the policy for guests. They've changed the guests policy, but not the staff policy, okay? So obviously everywhere in the entire country, trans people have been using the correct facilities for 100 years or whatever. And now they made this new change for the first time ever for guests, not for staff, meaning that trans women employed by Parliament would be able to use the women's loos. So that means if you work there, you can use the women's toilets unless you work there but you're not currently at work and then you're a guest. So then you can't. But then maybe if you're like a guest there half an hour before your shift starts, do you have to wait until the time changes? As always, clarity. Keir Starmer said that the ruling had brought clarity, that everything was more clear now. So now you know, if you go to the Houses of Parliament and you work there, you can still use the right toilet unless you work there and you're not currently on the clock, unless, of course, you pass and then no one could tell. But if you have said it online, then actually you can, and maybe if your biological sex has changed, then they say biological sex, so actually maybe you can. Maybe no one knows what the fuck is going on. Clarity. Aren't you so glad this is so clear that depending on whether you've got your work badge on or not, you can use different set of toilets? It's so clear, guys. Hashtag clarity. So good. Parliamentary staff have been given new guidelines on how to direct visitors to the toilet. If an individual asks where the nearest toilet is, a common spokesperson said staff will be told to signpost visitors to all available toilets, making it clear that a range of facilities are available. So if you go up and say, where are the toilets? Rather than them being like, a woman has asked me where the toilets are, I will point to the women's toilets. They're going to go, the men's toilets are over there. The women's toilets are over there. The disabled facilities are over there. The changing facilities are over there. The gender neutral facilities are over there. I mean, I guess that's not terrible. I don't have an issue with that. I'm not doing some kind of things that help other people are bad for me. But like, it's not always necessary to tell like someone where all of the different types of facilities are, because maybe they could just ask you for the one they want. But yeah, this whole thing's just completely ridiculous. This article's kind of trash. I feel like all of the independent articles are using biological sex as birth sex and are just scientifically wrong, so that's kind of tedious from them. But yeah, this whole thing is just completely fucking stupid. Hashtag clarity. So we've done that one, we've done that one. We've done this one. So we've got 3 things left. We've got time. We're gonna do them all. I want to do them all. I've got energy. Let's see if we got any more super chats. Just because I don't know, maybe I shouldn't keep on. Maybe I should just do them all at the end. What do you want? I feel like it's more fun if I interact with them. $10. Thank you very much from Domestic. Something more for Poppy's treat fund. So you might be pleased to know I recently bought Poppy some. It's called katsuobushi. It's like some Japanese fish flakes. And I think you can use them for human food too. They probably I think you put them in soups and stuff, and it's just like a flake of fish skin maybe, and it just kind of disappears but adds a fishy taste. When you open the pack, it's like the strongest smelling fish smell you've ever smelled in your life. And if you touch it with your fingers and then you close the pack and then you wash your hands and then you smell your fingers, they still smell like fish. Poppy fucking loves it. So if you've sent a super chat for Poppy in the past, you should be pleased to know that she goes a bit mental. Like, I open the pack and she's like, is that the katsuobushi? She comes over and she's like, hello, 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 hello. Like, okay, Poppy. So after this show, I will give her some more of that. She loves it. And if you have a cat, actually, I think probably any animal that likes stinky food or fish food, katsuobushi, you can get it from the internet. It's good stuff. £20 from Andrea Maynard. Thank you. That is very kind. Photographing someone in a public toilet is a criminal offence under the Sexual Offences Act 2003, and JK calling people to do this is an offence under the Serious Crime Act 2007. I'm glad you know that. It's like, if you've got the energy, report it to the police. Don't expect anything, but you might as well. Steve Burns sent a very kind £5 with a sticker of a dancing fox. Thank you very much. It's a shame that the sticker doesn't show up in the chat window here. I don't think it does. I think if you send the special emojis and stuff on Twitch, they do. I just don't think on YouTube they do. So if you just jump over to Twitch, then maybe you can get some emojis in. And then M68 Ken sent $5. Thank you very much. That's very kind. Says, as a person living with Crohn's disease, I can only imagine how terrifying it would be to be trans and need to use a public toilet. Yeah, I mean, whenever I'm talking about toilets, I'm doing it from effectively a very privileged position, because I haven't actually ever had an issue. I've never been confronted. I've never had a comment. I've never had someone looking at me weirdly. I've never had anything. And whenever I post about this online, I get a bunch of trans people and cis people, almost always women, saying they've been confronted sometimes their whole lives, like multiple times. And so but also I'm able-bodied and don't have any like irritable bowel syndrome or anything like that, so I need the toilet, infrequently compared to a lot of people. And like, even people with Crohn's disease or other issues already have a extra struggle going to the toilet, and then if they're also a trans person, yeah, man, it's this stuff. This is what intersectionalism is all about. It's just recognizing that you have blind spots, and that people with more than one thing, which makes their life harder, or that society makes their life harder for having, stack up. These things stack up, and they add up to more than the sum of their parts. If you are someone with Crohn's disease, the UK is hostile to you because our public toilet situation is terrible. Go to Japan and then come back to the UK and tell me that our public toilets are acceptable, because they are not. They're filthy, if they even exist. They often don't have soap or water or toilet roll. They could be so much better. They could be more of them, and they could be in better condition. There's no reason why they shouldn't be. But then if you're a trans person, you're now facing legal issues, and then if you have both of those things, like, it's just significantly worse for you, and it can be easy to miss that. When you're like, I often do that, and I'm guilty of that, and everyone is, and I don't think we can be too critical of people for not being aware of everything, but just when someone speaks up, to just give them space to talk about it. So thanks for sharing about that. I just seen this one pop up. £10 from Spiritborn. Thank you very much. That's very kind. Hi, have you covered the recent Stephen Fry response to J.K. Rowling? There's a video by Tim Wilson on Stephen Fry's response. Also, I am able to support your channel, ? Also, am I able to? You can support me by sending a super chat. I don't have a Patreon and anything like that because I don't know. I just feel a bit odd about it. I feel like I'm doing this because I care about trans rights, and I really feel a bit weird about getting super chats and money from YouTube advertising. It's Poppy. Hey, Pops. Did you hear me say Katsubushi? Look at this little squecker. Problem about doing this, I love bringing Poppy on stream, but then I scratch her chin and fluff comes out, and then it sticks to my makeup, and then I have an itchy nose or face or something for the rest of the episode, just to make this little scraggly puss feel happy. It's worth it. It's worth it. I can't complain, can I, Poppy, huh? She has unlimited chin scratch energy. Right, I'm going to put you down, Pops, because I want to finish what I was talking about. I don't know. If enough of you bullied me into getting a Patreon or something, I would. But also, I would feel like I don't want to be in a position where I do what I can, and if I couldn't do it, wouldn't want to feel like I owed people something. I don't know. I don't know. Whatever. I'm surviving comfortably at the moment. If you have money and you want to support me, then give it to a trans charity and tell me you've done it. Do it in my name. That'd be super kind. You know, if you like, it doesn't have to be a charity either. Like, what the trans example who we mentioned earlier. If you sent them 10 quid and said, this is a donation on behalf of Katie Montgomery because I like her channel and she told me to fuck off. Like that's great. But yeah, we'll see. I'm not saying never. But to answer your question, have we talked about Stephen Fry? We have not, because that is what we're going to talk about next. So, oh no, I've got cat hair on my nose. It begins! So Stephen Fry is quite a big deal in the UK. He's kind of considered like a nice person who everyone wants to have as their dinner party guest. That's like the kind of the meme. Like, pick your top 5 dinner party guests. Everyone in the UK says Stephen Fry. I've had varying opinions on him. There's a TV show called QI, which I used to watch. That's when I lived with my parents and I had a TV. I don't have a TV now. Who cares? Off topic. But that was quite good, and I kind of liked him from that. And he used to do a comedy show, and some of the clips from that are funny. I never really watched it. But then, he was the voice of the Harry Potter audiobooks. Him and J.K. Rowling were friends. Before she came out as a horrible person, and they interacted with each other publicly and etc etc, and then she came out as gender critical and started hating on trans people. And Stephen Fry is like publicly a gay person and has done gay rights activism. I remember watching a documentary of his which was really good actually, where he went to loads of places where being gay was illegal and like confronted the politicians and stuff. That was really good and quite brave of him and stuff. And he's done things about religious extremists who hate LGBT people. So he's been an LGBT activist, and he's been quite good about it until the J.K. Rowling thing. And then he was defending her and saying that she wasn't transphobic and all this kind of stuff. And it was like, so it wasn't at the time when people, when she had her first middle-aged moment and she liked that transphobic tweet, and we looked and saw all of her people who she was following were like horrific extremist anti-trans people. We all knew she was transphobic at that point, and it wasn't then when he was defending her. It was like a year or more after she came out with her essay saying that trans people shouldn't have human rights. And he kind of carried on doing it for ages, and then he just kind of went quiet on it. And it's like, mate, this is someone who you publicly support, you're professionally intertwined with, and you're meant to be an LGBT rights activist, and you're like defending her. Garbage. Anyway, he's kind of gone quiet on her and hadn't said anything about her for years, a long time anyway. And now suddenly he's doing an interview and he's changed his position. So here we have an article from The Standard. Stephen Fry turns back on Harry Potter author, calling her a lost cause over trans views. And it's actually a bit more extreme than that, which is good. God, I hate all these fucking websites with stupid pop-ups. Anyway, Stephen Fry has become the latest Harry Potter alumnus to turn his back on author J.K. Rowling, accusing her of being radicalized, calling her views on trans people cruel and mocking. So a quote from him: "She has been radicalized, I fear, perhaps by TERFs, but also by the vitriol that is thrown at her. So still doing a little bit of both sidesing. It's unhelpful and only hardens her. I'm afraid she seems to be a lost cause for us. Meaning LGBT people, presumably. She started to make these peculiar statements and had very strong, difficult views. But this guy, by the way, if you don't know Stephen Fry, like, look up a clip of him. He is like what you imagine when someone says a British person. He's very well spoken. He's like quite plummy. He looks posh. He sounds posh. He obviously went to like Cambridge or Oxford. He doesn't ever give, like, he's very polite and doesn't ever directly say anything. You know, he always stutters and murmurs around it. And so when he says things like she started to make these peculiar statements and had very strong, difficult views, she seemed to kick a hornet's nest of transphobia that's been entirely destructive. I mean, like, if this was me, I would say she started saying horrific anti-trans extreme stuff, and I think it's horrific. Like, she's a dickhead. But I'm not as posh as him, so this is him saying the same thing. I'm decoding this from British to English. From like England English to everyone else English. It's quite extreme for him to say this. I disagree profoundly with her on this subject. She says things that are inflammatory, contemptuous, and mocking. They add to a terribly distressing time for trans people. Fry said he once enjoyed Rowling's company and had chosen not to speak out publicly at the height of the controversy despite criticism. He told this podcast that he wouldn't abandon either Rowling or his trans friends. But this is the thing, and now he's come to the position where he agrees with me on this by the looks of things. You can't defend both J.K. Rowling and trans friends. You can't, like, she abandoned not just trans people. She abandoned a reasonable life. She abandoned, like, coexistence. She abandoned dignity and respect. She abandoned trans people's existence. And so you aren't faced with a choice. It's not like two of your friends had an argument because you went to a dinner party and one of them was rude to the other one, and you don't want to back down. And you know, they're both nice people. I wish they would just get along. That seemed to be his position. But like, she's out there calling for vigilante action against us and like funding people to take away our human rights and targeting random trans people and trying to ruin their lives. And you're like, oh, I just wish everyone would get along. She fucking hates us. She's an extremist. Like, she has lost her mind. And I'm glad he's finally seen sense on this. But this wasn't like 2022. This wasn't like, this isn't 2019. We knew, like, she was horrifically grim at this time. She was well down the rabbit hole. She'd given up all pretense of being a nice person at this point, and he was still defending her. And that is why a lot of LGBT people were really pissed off with Stephen Fry, and it's why I kind of, like, didn't like him anymore. But now he's finally, like, given up on this both sides in bullshit. Now take a firmer stance. When it comes to transphobia, it is right to remind people that trans people are here and that they are hurting, he said. They are being abominably I do know this word, I just can't say it, treated. There's a great deal of bullying, violence, suicide, and genuine agony in the trans community. From J.K. Rowling! So I'm glad that he's seen that. He also warned against reducing the debate to social media outrage. Here we go. He still has a garbage position on this. It's just better. To scream transphobe at anyone who doesn't buy into every single aspect of a trans person views is self-harming. Who's doing this? Like, there's two ways to read this. One is he's claiming that trans people say transphobe at anyone who doesn't agree with them on everything. When was the last time you've seen any trans person ever do that? When have I ever done that? I meet someone and they don't agree with me about, like, non-trans stuff. I'm not calling them a transphobe. About trans stuff. Like, I have arguments with trans people publicly on Twitter all the time. Or not Twitter now, Blue Sky. Have done this week. You can go and look. Neither of us are calling each other transphobes because we both know, everyone involved, bystanders, know that we're both just disagreeing over what we think is the best way to fight for trans people's rights, whereas someone like J.K. Rowling is not. Like, so the one way to read this is like, oh, trans people call everything transphobic, a nonsense position. And the other way is like trying to tell us that we shouldn't be calling actual transphobic people transphobic because it's pushing them away. Like, it doesn't get the thing done. You have to let people love you. Yeah, I mean, fuck off. Like, it's very cis-splaining, condescending. I know. I put in an insane amount of effort to winning people over. Okay? The people who you can let people love you, the people who are able to do that, aren't the people that we're calling transphobe. This isn't like, it's not like trans people and the rest, and then we're calling them transphobe and it's pushing them away. No, there's trans people, and then there's gender criticals, the transphobes, the extremists, the dickheads who we're calling transphobic, and then everyone else who is somewhere in between those two positions. And the vast majority of the people know absolutely nothing. And if you go back and look at what I've said about this kind of thing on this show before, there are people, we did a whole episode on this, there are people who'll come up and be like, I support trannies. And you're like, you know what, mate? Thank you. Actually, I will just add that is a slur for trans people, and you probably shouldn't say that in future, but I know what you're trying to say. Like, yes, it's technically transphobic to call trans people a slur. Okay, cool. But that's not interesting. I mean, obviously. But it's clear that someone who says that has their heart in the right place, and they are supporting you. And yeah, that's the kind of person that calling transphobic doesn't benefit. But, like, I'm sure that does happen, but it's not like a mainstream position. It's not something you need to call out. If I saw this happening, I'd be telling people to shut up about it all the time, because it'd be incredibly frustrating to see these potential allies being shut down by overzealous classification or whatever. I'm not seeing it. It's not an issue. It's not a real issue. A real issue is people being transphobic, like J.K. Rowling, and then rich, famous cis men telling us to stop saying it because we're causing part of the problem, or, you know, she's been radicalized both by transphobes and by the trans people who disagree with her. Like, fuck off. You don't know what you're talking about. Sure, you know, you fought for gay people's rights for longer than I've been alive. And for that, I am grateful. But at the same time, I think this is a garbage position. It's not like, oh, there's good and there's bad and Stephen Fry is bad. Obviously, his public position here is much closer to good than bad, but it is still frustrating to buy into this idea that trans people are part of the problem. We are not the part of the problem. I mean, there are some trans people who are part of the problem. Same with every minority group. But in general, not to the point where it's an issue to talk about, to raise up as some kind of both sides. Stop trying to both sides this. It's not a both sides thing. But yeah, so then we get a little summary here. Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint, who are Harry Potter, Hermione Granger, and Ron Weasley from the films, respectively, have all supported trans rights. And in contrast, Tom Felton, who played Draco Malfoy, like, could this be any better? The good guys from the book are good. And the guy who played the fucking bad guy, it's just, mate, history, like, real life is a joke. Like, what is going on? How did we end up in this world? Maybe we are living in a simulation. Anyway, Harry Potter and Hermione Granger are pro-trans, but Draco Malfoy, in real life, said, Rowling's views didn't change his gratitude towards her in the franchise. I'm not that attuned, he said in an interview. I always remind myself I've not seen anything bring the world together more than Harry Potter, and she's responsible for that. Right, so you don't give a fuck. You just want to get paid, and so you'll just say the good thing to make her not come after you. So, yeah, anyway, Fry, reflecting on the tone of the debate, I always liked her company. I found her charming, funny, and interesting. And then this happened. It completely altered the way she talks and engages with the world. Yeah, she lost her mind. She's a cultist. Anyway, we do have more to point out on this. Which is that there is a new Harry Potter thing coming out. So obviously we had the films before, and that's where Daniel Radcliffe and that are from. But there's a new TV series of Harry Potter coming out. I can't remember what it's called. I don't really care. And J.K. Rowling has since this has been announced, and since they've started casting actors, and in the process of this, it's not like this is all finished and then she said a thing. She said during this process that she's going to be using her money to fund attacks on trans people's rights in the UK. She's literally got a fund where you can report trans people at your work using the toilet, and she will help you sue them. Like, that is a thing she's actively doing. So obviously, when people are signing up to work for this TV show, it's a bit suspicious. Why would you work for someone doing this? Why would you contribute to her money? How can you be anything other than contributing to these attacks on, like, our human rights? Like, you're part of this now, aren't you? To an extent, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. You know, if you work for Coca-Cola, then you're destroying the planet. If you buy things from Amazon, then you're supporting Jeff Bezos. Sure. But this is, maybe this is just me being affected by something and me being privileged and not being affected by, like, Coca-Cola. Whereas if I was, like, a child slave who didn't have water, living in a third world country where Coca-Cola was, you know, ruining everything, I would think differently. But it does feel a little bit different that this isn't like, well, you need to eat, so you've got to buy food from some shit megacorp. This is like art. You could create different art. You could get a different job and support a different story. Why do we have to have another version of Harry Potter? There's loads of great fantasy books. We could have a different series. You could work on a different series. You could not put your name to this. Maybe there are some people working on this and it's their only job they could get. Fair enough. I don't think that's true for these big name stars. But yeah, so there's been a backlash, obviously, to these people. But one of them kind of stood out to me, which is one cast member who has now spoken against J.K. Rowling's rhetoric is Shaun of the Dead actor Nick Frost. Frost will play Hagrid, whatever, the role originally played by Robbie Coltrane, and when he was asked about Rowling in an interview, he said, "She's allowed her opinion and I'm allowed mine. They just don't align in any way, shape or form." He believes the controversy shouldn't blow over, adding, "We shouldn't just hope it will go away because it makes it easier. Maybe we should educate ourselves." Frost's opinions echo those of Papa Sidiou, who plays Severus Snape. Shortly after the casting was announced, the actor was among hundreds of TV, film and professionals who signed a letter calling for industry action on trans rights. And I saw, like, the news being like, Nick Frost has gone against J.K. Rowling, and all the liberals being like, yeah, this is what everyone should be doing. Well done for him. But, like, I'm sure this guy's a nice guy. Why are you doing it? You're making her money that she is using to take away trans people's human rights. Like, I mean, this is better. This is better than what that other dude was doing, than Malfoy was saying. For sure. Like, there's a range of positions, and this is not the worst one. I am not saying he is a transphobe or the worst person on earth, but, like, I think this isn't good. This isn't, like, a 10 out of 10 position. He hasn't shown her, like, oh, he's called her out. He's done something. This is in about where Stephen Fry is now. You know, you've called this out, but, like, you're still working for her and earning her money that she's going to use to attack my future. and you could not. Like, this guy, he's a good actor. He's in loads of things. In fact, quite often, I watch a film and I'm like, oh, it's the guy from Shaun of the Dead. He's in loads of stuff. And he could probably be in anything he wanted. So why is he picking this? Why is he putting his reputation and name to this? It's probably too late now. They probably already filmed it. But, like, I just don't think this is good enough. Sorry, but I think this is kind of a bullshit position. And sure, he's not a 0 out of 10, but this is like, what, like a 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10? I don't know. It's just like rubbish. Why you do something else? So yeah, anyway, it is good. I mean, it's like we looked at Boy George recently, who also did a thing. It is good to see that a bunch of cis men don't really want to get involved. There's good, you know, both siding people are losing their patience with J.K. Rowling and are giving up, but like a whole bunch of them have happened in a row. That's a good sign. People are seeing how horrible the gender critical movement is, and that's an important part of us building momentum in response to what they're doing. So maybe I should just be grateful for what we get. I don't know. Maybe if I meet him at the pub, I will thank him. But I just don't think it's... Like, some people will respond to me saying this, like, oh, well, no, you can't expect anyone to do anything for you then because, you know, if you're like this, they'll feel like, well, why did I even bother? Like, I do stuff that I think is morally correct. And sometimes I don't do the best job of it. And someone will come for me. And I do get that feeling like, oh, for God's sake, like, I'm trying, like, I mean, okay, I'll give a real example. Recently, I was saying some stuff on Blue Sky, and a few people came at me and were like, why the hell aren't you using the alt text thing? You can write, like, little text descriptions for your pictures that you post. Sometimes you post a screenshot of a news article, and you can just copy and paste in the words. And some people came at me, maybe a bit too harshly, maybe not in their opinion. That's fine, you can go look at it, make your own decision, doesn't matter, I'm not coming for those people. And my initial reaction in the instant was like, oh, why are they coming for like, oh. But then I thought about it for like one whole second, and I was like, no, I should, they're just right. Like, what is my moral position on this? My moral position is that there are people who can't see or who need help from screen readers or whatever, or who... There's a whole host of things I don't know and even know and understand about. So I might as well do this. And I am not just like a random Twitter user. I have like Blue Sky, sorry. I have like, you know, thousands of followers, and I'm trying to be a position in the trans community to help others. So some trans people are also blind people, and like, what's the effort it puts on me? So I clicked a setting. You can, there's a setting in the I didn't know about. You can go into settings and say like enforce alt text, so you actually can't click post unless you do it, which is really good because I just will not think of it otherwise. So I've done that, and now I'm doing it anyway. Whatever. You can have your own opinion on that. That's cool. But on my position, I mean, I think that's the morally correct position, is to help other people. When they came for me, when I received polite feedback from my peers, actually, when they came for me, ridiculous. I mean, exactly, it's just like a similar thing to this, not nearly as bad. They didn't do a video about me. They might have. But they, like, you know, when someone says something to me, Katie, you could do better on this. I don't think this is really good enough. Like, I'm a human. Of course, there's going to be some part of me that's like, oh, I'm trying my best, leave me alone. But also, like, I'm an adult. I'm a person. I'm able to do rational thought. And if I say to Nick Frost, mate, thanks, but like, this isn't really good enough, I think he should be adult enough to, and he probably would be, to be like, this doesn't feel good to be told this, but I will go away and think about it. And actually, my position is yes. And in future, I won't take a J.K. Rowling thing. And that's great. Maybe it's too late now. You can say sorry or not, whatever. But I do think that it is worth politely criticizing your allies and potential allies. It's one of the things I said in my talk at the FGEN conference, actually, was one of the differences between the trans rights movement and the gender critical movement, there's a lot of differences. But one of the differences is if I said something immoral, if I went on Twitter and said something racist or sexist or homophobic or anything like that, or I announced I was like working on the new Harry Potter, you guys would fucking eat me alive. You would shred me. You would like, you might have some, oh well, Katie's been good on other things, so we'll give her a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But you're not gonna just be like, well, I'm not gonna do anything. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think that's a good thing. I mean, it would be nice if I had clearly made a mistake, if you gave me the benefit of the doubt and said, hey mate, you might want to rethink this one, delete this, and I'll discuss it with you in private. That's nicer than doing like a call out video. But like, how are we gonna get better as a movement if we don't offer constructive feedback? Like, you can do it in better ways than others. Maybe this video is too harsh to Stephen Fry and Nick Frost, and if they're watching, I'm sorry if it comes across too harshly, but I just think you can do a bit better. And I'm sure I can do better on some things. And if you are organizing for any kind of minority rights movement and someone comes and tells you you're not doing good enough, it's okay to be annoyed and be like, oh, fucking hell. But then just stop and think about it and then just do a bit better. And that's the difference. The gender criticals don't do that. When they say something racist, they all just defend each other. And then, because they're right-wing shitheads and they can't criticize each other, they have a hierarchy. You cannot criticize J.K. Rowling. You cannot criticize Helen Joyce. You cannot criticize Graham Linehan, because they are your superiors. And that's how the movement works. It's like this hierarchy. In trans world, you can and do criticize trans people all the time. So just, you know, that was a bit of a rant off topic, but I think it is good to be honest about the positions of our allies. And thanks, Stephen Fry. Thanks, Nick Frost. Thanks for finally calling out this horrible person. I do appreciate it. It is not nothing to be a celebrity and to take a position against a crazy hate-filled billionaire with the media on her side. So thank you. But also, I do think you could do better. We're going to keep going. I know we're past 2 hours, but I just, there's more to cover, and I did also promise we were going to do the biggest clown. And we are. Oh, man. There is one thing we're going to have to put off to next week. We're just going to do one more bit of news, and that is... So this is from Good Law Project. And this is a bit specific. And it might not look as good as it sounds when we look at it, but it is positive. The EHRC formally abandons single-sex toilet stipulation. So this isn't them saying, actually, trans people are fine and they can use whatever facilities they want, just like they have been for the last 100 years, whatever. That isn't what's happened. The EHRC... Actually, maybe we can just look at it, and I'll explain if it's not clear. The EHRC has now abandoned its contention that employers must provide single-sex toilets following the service by Good Law Project of its claim for judicial review. So, yeah, the initial position, which rushed out in the aftermath of the Supreme Court decision, states, in workplaces, it is compulsory to provide sufficient single-sex toilets as well as sufficient single-sex changing rooms and for washing facilities where they are needed. Now, you just need to decode this into transphobic, turf island, gender critical, legal nonsense. Or decode it from that. When the EHRC says you must provide single-sex toilets, you might think, oh yeah, well, my workplace has a men's and a women's. Mine has a men's and a women's. So that's fine. That isn't what they're saying. They are saying, when they say single sex, they mean excluding trans people. The claim by the current EHRC, based on the other things that they are saying, is that in this claim, workplaces must create a situation which has separate toilets for men and women and that bans trans people from using those. That was their original claim. And they have changed their position. Their position now is, in relation to workplaces, requirements are set out in the Workplace Regulations 1992. These require suitable and sufficient facilities to be provided, including toilets and sometimes changing facilities and showers. Toilets, showers, and changing facilities may be mixed sex, where they are in a separate lockable room from the inside. So, all toilets in the UK effectively meet this requirement. So they're now saying you are allowed to provide facilities where trans people are allowed in. What isn't clear and what is made difficult by this ruling is previously, by the Supreme Court ruling, previously, if you're an employer, like a small employer, you might say, I've got 2 toilets. One is for men and one is for women. And I'm saying all the men should use the men's one and all the women should use the women's one. And that includes trans people. And if you had a male employee insist on using the women's toilets for whatever weird reason, then you could have potentially had legally protected like disciplinary against this person who like didn't respect the facilities or whatever. Now with the new ruling, that is like weakened because you cannot claim that facilities are single sex. Even if you put men's and women's on the door and they're understood to be men's and women's toilets, you cannot claim they are single sex if you don't explicitly ban trans people from them. Or at least this is my understanding. #clarity. So now, basically, all toilets are legally mixed sex unless you explicitly ban trans people from them, which most places won't do. And anywhere that does will be just ignored anyway. But that is okay. But if you wanted to actually ban cis men from the women's toilets, you wouldn't be quite so legally protected to do so now. Probably. So this is like, this isn't really a win for trans people, and this isn't really a win for the gender criticals, and this is not really a win. This isn't really a win for anyone. They have accidentally ruled that all toilets in the UK are mixed sex now. So that's kind of stupid. I don't think anyone's benefited from this at all. Like, the gender criticals don't get to feel good that they're hurting us because they can't ban us, really. And we don't gain anything here, and cis people don't gain anything. Oh. So this is their, like, side-to-side change. But they didn't announce this in their press release. They just sneakily changed it. Because, of course, they did. But the important thing to point out here is the EHRC are trying to cause as much harm to trans people as they can. They're trying to see what they can get away with. And through political pressure from you guys, turning up to mass lobbies, writing to your MPs, and from legal pressure, like from Good Law Project, and there's like multiple groups suing them for multiple reasons. They're having to backtrack. They're having to push back. They're having to change things. That is good. Like, this might be like the shittest win of all time, because this hate group wanted to enforce a bathroom ban, and now they've said bathroom bans are allowed, but also you don't have to do one. Like, hooray! But that is positive. That is a step towards a better world, even if it's gone from being like absolutely horrific to kind of bad. And I just think we need to keep pushing. Like, it's happening. We are making a difference. Keep going. We can get them to back down on more stuff, change their position, get Parliament to put pressure on them. So that's a good thing. Now, there is something I wanted to go through a little bit more. So perhaps I'll just point you to this. Trans Advocacy and Complaints Collective, who, if any of them are watching, your website, like, it'd be good if, like, most things are, like, in a column like this, so that it's just a bit easier to read than whole screen. Just, I don't know. This is just my personal feedback. Hard to get it all on the screen for a stream as well. But anyway, they have got some leaks, basically. And what they have found is that the EHRC had closed-door meetings with Sex Matters where they basically, like, schemed to undermine the Equality Act. Like, actual conspiracy stuff. They were arguing that trans women and trans men don't exist. And so they were trying to, like, find ways of getting around it. There is a lot here. They got loads of leaks. It's good reading. I wanted to go through the whole article. I just don't have time. Maybe we'll go for it in the future. But like, this stuff is worth checking out. If you're going to write to your MP, it might be worth pointing out how the EHRC have been conspiring with like hate groups to try and undermine the law. There is also a public letter here which you can sign, which I'll try and put in the description. You can demand an inquiry into the EHRC's handling of trans rights. This kind of stuff is what you can say in there. Like, there's an open letter, but you could also write to your MP. Anyway, done on the EHRC now. We'll cover it more in future. So we have one thing left, and this is hilarious. Wait, this just... When I saw this, I actually screamed out loud. So, this is, I genuinely think, the biggest clown in the gender critical movement. And I think this person tops Graham Linehan. She is just such a fucking joke. So if you haven't heard of this person, this is Allison Bailey. And of course, with all gender criticals, I have to be careful because they do not like being criticized. They have unlimited money and they will sue anyone they can into silence. However, we can read some articles and some direct quotes and have genuine opinions based on those things. And if you're American or from another country, you can say what you want about this stupid person. Anyway, J.K. Rowling's barrister friend says she was banned by her vet for her gender-critical beliefs. But clinic staff say it was because she was rude when she was told her dog was too fat. A friend and supporter of J.K. Rowling has claimed she was banned by a vet from their practice due to her gender-critical beliefs. But staff say the real reason was she became rude and difficult after being told her dog was too fat. This is just like the perfect example. Whenever they say, I was banned, I was fired just for saying sex is real, just for having genuinely held gender-critical beliefs, every single time it's because they're a piece of shit and they're rude or difficult or whatever, or just a horrible, abusive, harassing person. They're all like this. Whenever they say this, it's like that one we looked a while ago where they were like, teacher fired for refusing to do pronouns or whatever. And then you look into the article and it's like, oh, they were actually downloading private documents about a student and putting them on the internet. Okay, why did you go with misgendering in the headline? Anyway, retired criminal defense barrister. Retired, yeah. Sure, that was voluntary. Retired criminal defense barrister Allison Bailey is suing for £25,000. Of course she is. She fucking loves suing people. Fortunately, she's not very good at it. As we will see, was expelled from Palmerston Veterinary Practice in London on the grounds of her unacceptable behaviour. She denies that she lost her temper and shouted, but one employee at the practice said she never had to deal with such a rude client ever. This is what gender critical people are like. They are deeply unlikable people. Like, if you are someone who dedicates your, like, hobby, goal in life, your public persona, your personality to wanting to take away trans people's rights, do you think you're a normal functioning member of society? Like, no. Like we were just talking about with what Stephen Fry was saying about J.K. Rowling. He used to think she was nice and funny, and now she's lost her mind and he thinks that she isn't those things anymore. It's not just that they are unlikable because of their political positions. They're unlikable. that's linked with why they have terrible political positions. Internal email said staff was scared of her and avoided dealing with her whenever possible. They don't write this about emails about you if you're gender critical, if you're a normal person. The vet, I mean, not to stereotype, but every vet I've ever encountered is like the nicest person on earth. You don't dedicate your life to healing animals if you're not a nice person. I mean, I'm sure there are some bad vets, and you know, I've met an incompetent vet before, but never felt the need to shout at them or be rude. Or one time they told me Poppy was overweight and she needed to eat a bit less, and then that's what I wanted because I care about my cat. I didn't start shouting at them because I'm not a piece of shit. The ban followed an incident which it is claimed she was rude to receptionists when she was told the surgery did not currently have flea and worming medication for her dog, at which point she became very angry. You can just get it off the internet. Mrs. Bailey claims there was no justification for the ban. Of course she does. Anyway, what a fucking clown. Here she is with J.K. Rowling. Here she is with her dog. Presumably who's fatter than that, but maybe not. So, to cover my basis here, and to be very clear, we don't know for sure which of these accounts is true. But I personally, in my opinion, would not be surprised if it turned out in court that she is full of shit. I just thought we're just, you know, who the hell is Allison Bailey? Why should I care about this person? Sure, she's friends with J.K. Rowling, but why, you know, maybe you've never heard of her before. She isn't just a nobody. She is, I think one of the one of the leading members of LGBT Alliance, or was at one point. But she has a history of absolute fucking clown behavior. So I just want to cover her greatest hits, and we have a selection of things here. And I just want to prove to you why I think she is the biggest clown in the gender critical movement. So first of all, this post, unbelievably, is still up from 2020. And just to show what kind of person she is, she says, "This has been one of the most depressing 24 hours I've ever had on gender critical Twitter." Good. To be clear, every woman and girl must know that their sex-based rights will disappear if they do not pay attention and join this struggle. This is so regardless of their skin color, age, economic status, politics, education, etc. Okay, so wrong, because attacking trans people doesn't actually affect your rights as a cis person at all. However, so far, whatever. She then specifically adds whether they are non-racist, racist, homosexual, or homophobic. That doesn't mean I condone racist or homophobic behaviour. I abhor it. That doesn't mean I have to ally myself with racists or homophobes, that I will not call out such behaviour. Just that I recognise that all women need to know the struggle for women's rights is their struggle too. Why is your struggle the same struggle as the racist struggle? Why did you What are you talking about? Whenever, when I say, I support trans rights, it is true that some trans people are racist and some trans people are homophobic. And when I fight for them having the ability to get a passport, yeah, they get a passport. But I'm not going around saying, I am fighting for trans people's rights, and that includes the racist trans people too. I want you to know I support the racist trans people. What are you talking about? Why has this come up? Why is this your thing? What are you on about? Do we use clear language that alerts all women and girls what's happening about them? Or do we say that it's only for the well-educated feminist, non-racist lefties? What are you talking about? Why do you keep highlighting the racists? Wait, don't forget the racists. We must remember the racists. Do we keep our message clear and welcoming of all females, or do we erect checkpoints? I'm personally, I'm not saying that trans people who are racist shouldn't have human rights. I actually think everyone should have human rights, and that's where me and Allison Bailey differ. But I don't think I need to create my message in a way that specifically includes racist trans people. On this show, hopefully hopefully it comes across that I'm actually hostile towards racists. I would like to think that if there are any racists in my chat right now, that they should realise that actually I fucking hate them. And I think they should fuck off. Now, if they happen to be trans, I think they should have trans healthcare too. But I don't want to create a welcoming space for them. And the reason I don't want to create a welcoming space for racist trans people isn't just because racists are immoral shit people and racism is a completely nonsense worldview. It's because if I make a message that is welcoming of racist trans people, then trans people who aren't white people won't feel welcome here. So I'm then specifically creating an environment for racists. Like, this isn't... you can't create an environment that is good for racists and good for people who aren't white people. Like, you can only do one or the other. So if you constantly highlight how you want to make a space for racists, then, like, why are you doing this? Anyway, that was an Allison Bailey classic. Wonderful voice of sense. Thank you for 4 Women in Scotland. Great, good, excellent group. We're so glad that they're a group. Anyway, Allison Bailey, one of her big achievements. Man. So she sued Stonewall in conjunction with a bunch of people. She sued like Stonewall and her chambers and garden court chambers and stuff. And the headlines at the time were Allison Bailey awarded £22,000 in discrimination case. How Allison Bailey crushed Stonewall. Its rainbow reign is finally over. If you're around in this time, July 2022, also when this article was written, this was a big case. Allison Bailey spent £500,000 on legal proceedings against GCC and Stonewall and a bunch of other people, and it was put forward as a win. So she spent, again, £500,000 on this, of course funded by the gender critical movement, and she won £22,000. So obviously a stellar win there. It was over some like specific thing where they had written a policy and they hadn't followed it word for word. It was like the minor thing. Bear it down, like just bearing in mind that here Julie Bindel, another gender critical activist, has written the headline, how Allison Bailey crushed Stonewall, it's a rainbow reign is finally over. BBC notes a bit lower down that she did lose her case against Stonewall. Anyway, she won, and that's what's important. Allison Bailey crushed Stonewall. And this was like the story. At the time, all of the news articles were just talking about how Allison Bailey, this heroic gender critical woman, had fought back against the evil rainbow lobby and crushed them. Allison Bailey is herself gay, I think. Because I think she's part of the LGBT Alliance. But importantly, she doesn't like trans people, so she has crushed the Rainbow Reich, or whatever they describe them as. But then, quietly, a little bit later, she appealed her win. So it was like, we have won, we have declared victory, and we're appealing it. So then she appealed this win, crushing Stonewall, a couple of years later, and then lost the appeal. So just this first case cost £500,000, and then they took it to another level, and they won. Don't forget they won. They crushed Stonewall, but then they appealed it and then they lost. So just constantly embarrassing, constant clown behavior. But there's more. We've still got a few things to cover. So unfortunately, I think this account has been deleted. They've moved to Blue Sky. This is the only relic that I can find that remains. The Midnight Society, I think they're Midnight Pals on Blue Sky as well. They write these weird, kind of like surreal stories all the time about various groups of people, including the gender criticals. And they have all these like characters for all of them. and they kind of fit with them, and it's quite funny. It's surreal. It's kind of surrealist, worth reading. But there was this one they did. They often do these long threads with like 20 or something tweets in it, and all these gender criticals have different ways of talking in them. And they said, Rowling, fools! I'm surrounded by fools, because J.K. Rowling talks like a snake whenever they write it. Kathleen Stock says, excuse me, I'm no fool. See, holding up a comically oversized gag university diploma. Because Dr. Stock like famously joined that like fake university in Texas, and then they with Jordan Peterson, and then didn't do anything. And then Allison Bailey, I'll use my legal expertise. Trips, dumps spaghetti out of briefcase. So they just like they write these things all the time. This wasn't, to be honest, they're all about this good. So I do recommend. I always read they're one of the few accounts that writes these long, pointless. I mean, no offense to them, pointless threads. But I just read every single one. They're all just quite funny. But they came out with this, and the idea of Allison Bailey having spaghetti in a briefcase was quite funny. And so a few people started saying it on Twitter. And when she would like write a tweet, people would be like, they'd just write spaghetti briefcase or something. It was just a little meme. It wasn't like, this only had like less than 700 likes. But it was mentioned a few times, and it became like a bit of a meme for the people who know who Allison Bailey is. But then all of a sudden the gender criticals became aware of it, and they got really upset by it because, I don't know, but they just, I actually found this screenshot because it was helpfully archived on Mumsnet, which is the staging ground for lots of the gender critical harassment campaigns. In their feminism discussion, yeah, sure. But they were very confused by this and angry about it. But they decided, Allison, I couldn't find this either, unfortunately lost time. Allison quite rightly pointed out that they were attacking her using racist tropes. But like, okay, if Allison Bailey was Italian, perhaps this would be arguably a racist trope. But they try and say, like, this person's even confused why it's racist. And they're like, don't dwell on the thought processes of the TRAs. They, this is like a little side thing. Whenever you read the gender criticals talking, sometimes some of them will come up with things like, oh, like trans people have pointed out this scientific study. Trans people have made this argument which defeats what I said. And then all of the others will chime in being like, don't think about those illogical, crazy fools. And they don't have answers to it. They just say, trans people are insane, you shouldn't listen to them. And that kind of ends the discussion. Anyway, culty, for sure. But then they argue that it's like a minstrel trope. And it's not anything to do with the fact that, like, this was August of 2022, so this was after she had won her case against Stonewall, and she was already a clown at the stage. Everyone knew that she was an idiot. She was constantly doing these big pronouncements saying that the gender critical should make space for the racists, and winning her case by losing it. So this was, I mean, like, Dr. Stock here is also portrayed as a clown. You just can't argue it, but of course she said it was racist. So then it became this like joke that she thinks she's Italian. Anyway, but then if you scroll back on my channel far enough to whenever this was, 2021. So this was before the spaghetti briefcase. So this adds to her spaghetti briefcase, like persona. There was this instant which she has deleted from Twitter. Like, she still has her thing up saying we should make space for the racists, but she deleted this one for embarrassment. So I asked people to find it. Thankfully, thank you very much, Charlotte, who found this. So she said, someone just... I did a whole video about this, but we're recovering it. Someone just threw a Whisper, which in the UK is a chocolate bar, a Whisper chocolate bar into my garden along with a lemon. I found my dog eating the chocolate. I think in time to have stopped it from killing him. Good. Chocolate is highly poisonous to dogs. I'm glad the dog is okay. And then she says, right side of history, my ass. So, you might not know, but the right side of history is a reference to people saying continuously to the gender criticals, you're on the wrong side of history. Because, as we all know, the gender critical movement is just like the homophobe movement part 2, and they are on the wrong side of history in the sense that in 100 years, everyone will look back at this and be like, these people were evil. And that is what people are starting to see now. But she is, by saying this, like, she found a chocolate bar and a lemon in her garden, and she is just straight up saying that this was trans people who did this. And unfortunately, we don't have the whole thread, but I can't remember if it was specifically her. I do need to be careful. Please do not sue me for misremembering. Maybe her, maybe not her, but certainly the gender criticals I remember were pointing out how whisper could also mean we spa. And if you remember, around this time, there was the We Spa incident of a spa in the US called where a trans person allegedly was naked in the wrong place. And then also a lemon, which I didn't know until around this time, that a lemon was like an 80s slur for a lesbian. And they were saying that these were like targeted items. Seems kind of insane. I guess not impossible, but she found a chocolate bar and a lemon in her garden and instantly went to Twitter to accuse trans people of doing it. Like, that's what's important. And then, when was this? 11:42. Then 2:44 p.m. on the same day. So 3 hours later, she comes on Twitter and says, this one's still up. The culprit who lobbed a whisper bar and a lemon into my back garden has just knocked on my door to apologise. Nothing nefarious, just neighbouring children being silly. Lesson learned for the both of us. Those tiaras making fun. One word, ribbons. So, what happened here is, some kids threw some rubbish into her garden, and her first response was to accuse trans people of doing it. And not even like 3 hours later, and then she finds out it was just kids in the street. Didn't even think to ask, just the conspiracy mindset you have to have to believe this, just this to be your thing. This is why people were calling you spaghetti briefcase. And this is why I think you're the biggest clown. So this thing about ribbons references gender criticals, including what is her name? Oh man, Marion Miller turned up at someone's workplace and like to put some signs up saying that they like abused children or something, and or whatever it was, and I can't remember exactly. I don't think Allison Bailey was involved in this personally, but amongst other, they put up, like, they harassed this person at their workplace, including putting some gender critical branded flags and ribbons and whatever you. And when that person then went to the police and said, these people are harassing me at my workplace, the gender criticals pretended that this person randomly saw a single ribbon tied to a fence somewhere, and then they had a tantrum and called the police. So that's her doing this. But the difference between this and that is, well, one, they turned up at someone's workplace in the night to harass them, which is fucking weird. And two, that actually happened. Whereas in this case, you saw some rubbish in your garden and instantly assumed it was trans people, and it didn't actually happen. So it's constantly nonsense. Anyway, all of this adds up to why, when I saw this stunning headline, I just thought, of course she fucking did. Like, this is on par for her, and I hope that Allison Bailey doesn't go the way of Marion Miller. Marion Miller was like the centerpiece of the gender critical movement. She's where Women Won't Weesh came from. She was one of their main campaigners, the strongest voice, and all of a sudden disappeared out of existence. They stopped talking about her. No one mentioned her anymore. All the newspapers stopped mentioning her. And it was like, where the hell has this person gone? Like, she was like their front person one day, and then the next day she didn't exist. Turned out she had like allegedly, I think, like I still have to say allegedly at this point, stolen like hundreds of thousands of pounds from people, like including the gender critical movement, like had embezzled a load of money or something along those lines. And they found out about it, and rather than calling her out, because you can't do that in the gender critical movement, like if we found out that a trans person had stolen even £100 from other trans people, they would be shredded. They would be eaten alive on the internet, and everyone would hate them forever. Gender criticals can't do that because you can't criticize the hierarchy. You can't like cause upset in the ranks. You know, you need to make space for the racists. So they just disappeared her. They had group chats discussing, saying, we need to not talk about this person anymore, and they just didn't. That was it. The media stopped mentioning her. Done. No investigation. End. But I hope Allison Bailey doesn't get disappeared. I hope we are blessed with headlines like this for the rest of time. Like, Allison Bailey sues a restaurant over her gender critical beliefs, but the restaurant say she was smashing up the furniture in the room or something like that. Just incredible. Absolute fucking clown. Anyway, I hope you are blessed to have learned of the magic that is Allison Bailey. And now we've all got to pray that she doesn't sue me for reading out quotes from her, or giving my honest opinion, or reading an article by the Daily Mail. Who knows? She seems to have unlimited funds. If she's suing a vet, then we'll see. But at least it will generate some hilarious moments. I always feel like she's like that a bit in The Simpsons, where Grandpa Simpson's, they're like, can't you even go 1 minute without humiliating yourself, Abe? And then his trousers fall down like straight away after. I always just think of that, like spaghetti briefcase, trousers falls down. Anyway, I hope that made your life better. But yeah, that's all the things. That's all the things this week. Thanks very much, everyone, for hanging around. I hope you're all well. Let's see if we have any more super chats before we call it a day. But then we're calling it a day. We just have that one extra one asking about Stephen Fry, which I already read out. But yeah, I hope you're all doing well. I hope this was a good episode. I hope you didn't get a J.K. Rowling overdose. I'm sorry there was so much J.K. Rowling. I hope we don't have to talk about her ever again. Yes. I will be back same time next week. We're getting close to the point where it might be holiday time. Let me have a look. I should not put that up on that screen in case I click on the wrong button. I don't want everyone to see my calendar. Definitely here next week, and the week after, and the week after. Okay, so we've got like a month to go before it starts getting to the point where I might be away for some of it. But yeah, so see you same time next week. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. I appreciate your constant support. The channel's doing really well. We hit 30,000 subscribers. We seem to be hitting like 300 or 400 live viewers every time. I think things are going quite well. I hope this is making a difference. I am seeing people saying they like the videos and they only learnt about whatever from this video and stuff. If you have any feedback, I still like very appreciative of receiving feedback about what I can do to make the stream better, what I can do to make the video clips better. Within reason. Bear in mind, this isn't my job. I did a full day's work today. I had a meeting at 9 a.m. I had a meeting at 5 p.m. Meeting finishes, eat dinner, plan this out, do this. Now it's like 3 hours long. And now, before I go to bed, I've got to clip up all the videos into little sections. And make a load of thumbnails. And so, yeah. Anyway, I do appreciate the feedback. Yeah. Right, I'm going to stop talking now. Bye, everyone.